Now, Peter Madden is the most recent candidate to throw his hat into the ring for the long-awaited general election. He is going forward as an independent, but under the National Alliance umbrella. Peter, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran.
And good to see you today. Why have you decided to throw your hat in the ring, Peter?
Well, I realised that the country wasn't going in the right direction, Fran. I know an awful lot of people are very concerned about what's happening to the country. As far as I can see, it's been destroyed in front of my eyes. And I felt I had to do something about it. It's not something I ever really particularly wanted to get into politics or anything like that. You know, this whole politics, inverted commas. But we only have this one life. We have this beautiful country. And I felt that I had to do something about it and stand up for the people of Ireland, because I don't believe that the government, either the government or what I call the false opposition, are acting in the interests of the people of Ireland.
Now, help us to understand exactly where you are. You're running as an independent, but you're under that national alliance that includes the National Party, Ireland First, and the Irish People. Why wouldn't you be part of either of those three organisations?
Well, I'd certainly consider it, Fran. I have always been independent. I ran in the elections back in 2019. I ran in the European elections, and I ran in a by-election in Dublin. And I don't really want to have to answer to anybody, put it that way, you know. And in this case, with this alliance, it's an alliance of those three parties and independents. And there's no party whip as such. We're entitled to... It's sort of a technical device to get people who are part of a national alliance of patriots and people who love their country, who want to stand to defend their country and are not going the same direction as the government are taking the country with the Agenda 2030, yes. The globalist agenda. So we're contrary.
And the alliance would be seen as being far right, I suppose. Do you see you as being far right, Peter?
Absolutely not, no. And I completely reject this right wing, left wing, far right, far left common sense. I mean, if far right, if say a left right, if that's socialism, if that's looking after people in that's sensible. That's not.
So you don't see yourself as
absolutely
a right wing candidate?
Oh, I want to. I think at the back of it, right, there's a very sophisticated and organised hidden group, believe it or not, controlling the destiny of the world, and they're running the banking system. That's how they do it, through money globally, and through the issuing of debt, and their private banks. For example, the Federal Reserve and all that, they're not owned by the states or the people. And the people who control the issuing of the money control the countries. Rothschild said that years ago. Yeah?
And you know what some people will be screaming at the radio now is that's all conspiracy theory. What do you say to that?
They do conspire. They are conspiring, and they're conspiring openly. I mean, 97% of the wealth of the world owned by less than 1% of the people. These are the facts. It's concentrated further and further. And if it's right wing to try and take down the what I see as a criminal banking fraternity that have their boot on the throat of humanity for so long, if that's right wing, you can call me what you like, but I think it's humanitarian to just...
You describe yourself as well, Peter, as having Christian values. Do you think Ireland is losing touch with Christian values? Well,
Fran, I think most people are very good in their hearts, do you know what I mean? And people's fate is up to themselves, you know, be it a gift or whatever, you know. Certainly, I mean, we seem to be living in much harsher times, but I know, the people I know, we're great people in this country, you know. But I don't think it's a genuine expression of the will of the people of this country is what we're saying, you know.
What about immigration then? Because, you know, you're calling certain people in Leinster House traitors and the like, and you're describing yourself as patriots and that. So naturally we might think that you're anti-immigration. And is that you, Peter?
No, I'm in favour of controlled and sensible migration policy. And I don't believe that anybody listening to this thinks that what we've seen in the last number of years in this country is either controlled or sensible. It absolutely is not. Yeah.
And where do you stand on that? I mean, are you talking about capping numbers coming in? Are you talking about... what exactly do you want where immigration is concerned?
Well, a huge number of people have come in the last number of years. Their situation needs to be reassessed. I would expect we'd have mass remigration, deportations. I am in favour of pro-ethnic Irish policies.
Just explain that to me now.
See, okay, Irish, what it is to be Irish has always been defined ethnically. It's in our blood. Irish nationalism is always defined ethnically. Yeah, there's two types of nationalism: there's civic nationalism and ethno-nationalism. And Irish nationalism has always been ethnically defined. Okay, all of those people who fought for 800 years, they were fighting for the blood of the Irish. Yeah. And so anyone who has a problem with Irish ethno-nationalism has a problem with all those people who fought for Irish freedom.
And just for clarity then, if I come from Syria here, and if I settle down here, and if I work here, and I have a home here, and I have a family here, am I outside of that parameter that you're talking about?
I said pro-ethnic.
Even if I see myself as being Irish.
Sure, yeah. Well, you're not. No, that doesn't make you Irish, you know. A piece of paper doesn't make you Irish, you know. Through time, you can blend in, you know, integrate into the society. And
some people might see that as being racist.
This is very interesting, because all of a sudden, to be pro-ethno-Irish ethno-Irish policies is seen as racist. And they're saying it in Google, it'll say, or on Facebook, whatever, goes against, you cannot say this because it denigrates, or that doesn't. I want to lift up the Irish people, right? I'm not putting anyone down, but they're making it now that if you try and give any sort of preferential treatment to Irish, so I think that's absurd.
But isn't that notion out there that inclusion and diversity is all extremely positive in our evolution as Irish people?
Absolutely. But is there some? At what point do the diminution of the Irish people in ethnically Irish people? At what point is that a problem? We're down to like 20%. Well, if we're down, the projections are that the ethnically Irish people will be a minority in our own country in the next 20, 30 years. It was a headline in the Irish Times about this, yeah? I mean, we can't just allow ourselves, this is our only homeland. We've got to defend it, you know?
Mm-hmm. When you say defended, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think it's under attack, but it's these international institutions and global organisations. It's their agenda to wipe out nationalism. Nationalism is a dirty word. And now I just wanted to point out that, say, in other countries, like, say, the US, New Zealand, Australia, even Israel, right? They're settler colonial countries. They have been settled and colonised, right? We have resisted settlement and colonisation for 800 years, right? So we're talking about... ethno-nationalism wouldn't make sense, say, in the US, because that would, you know, they talk about white supremacy, whatever, you know. It's ridiculous. They have been settled. The native American indigenous people have been so decimated, right? So I wouldn't argue for ethno-nationalism in a settler colonial country.
But you would here.
I would here, absolutely. And it's always been the case. That's what Irish nationalism has always been. And they're trying to make it seem like a dirty word to be an Irish ethno-nationalist. Yeah?
You're talking about the need as well to get people together to resolve the country's problems. Just identify the problems. Is it the usual stuff? Housing, health, you know?
Yeah, freedom of expression, friend.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, these laws they're bringing in to try and suppress free speech. You're well aware of it here, you know. I've heard you talk about
they
it,
took
you
the
know?
speech aspect out of the legislation.
They did, but I think they'll be coming back with it, you know. And yet we still have this whole 72 genders. I don't know if you heard the senator spent 30 minutes reading them out. It's absolutely crazy what they're going ahead.
So that's an issue for you as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so many issues. I mean, the whole direction that they're bringing this country is a direction to disaster. And myself and a few others, we're not going along with it. We're very, you know, small voice it seems at the time, but I know from talking to people that there's a huge, I won't even say silent majority, that have been silenced, but they're not happy about the way things are going.
And I mean, if you're to believe the polls, for example, Fine Gael, they're leading this government, they're flying in the polls. Simon Harris is doing remarkably well altogether. The prediction now is that it probably will be Fine Gael leading the next government with others. So what does that say to you? I mean, you're talking about the people wanting change and stuff.
Yeah, well,
where's the change in that?
People have been misled, Fran. They don't realise how misled they've been. I mean, be it I was, just before I came in, I was listening to this little thing from your programme there, and it mentioned climate change, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a scientist. I was working for the EU, going around to schools in Ireland teaching about climate change, okay? And I believed what I was told when I started. And then I said, I better look into it because I wanted to know what I was talking about, yeah? And I realised that there is no truth whatsoever in this CO2-driven, anthropogenic global warming, this global warming which is caused by CO2. It doesn't stack up scientifically. So why are we...
But still, the majority of scientists are telling us that, and we're told we have to believe the science on this, Peter.
Oh, I was 100% man for science for a reason,
Now, what's behind that as far as you're concerned?
Ideological, you see. It either is or isn't, right, these things as regards to science, the climate science, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of geoengineering going on as well. We are warming up. Obviously, it's been warming up since the last ice age. When the planet warms up, carbon dioxide comes out of solution. It's in the oceans, vast number volumes of carbon dioxide in the oceans. So that's coming out of solution in the ocean as it warms up.
And environmentalists are telling us, look at what's been happening in Spain, for example.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Well, I've had people
is it
tell
hard
me
to
there this
deny
morning
that?
about dams been unblocked.
I read that, yeah.
All of that, I mean, there are changes. There's definitely something going on. I believe there's climate geoengineering going on. To what extent, we don't know. I mean, look at the grey days and the summers we've had there recently. It's been appalling, and
again, people listening might say, God, will you listen to Peter? He's full of these conspiracy theories on every single subject that we've touched on so far.
Absolutely.
What do you say to that,
Absolutely.
Peter?
Well, I say that term was a conspiracy theory is code for they have found out what we are doing and we have to marginalise them and make them look stupid. Conspiracy theorist is code for they have found out what we are doing and we have to marginalise them and make them look stupid. There is conspiracy, Fran, going right back to the banks, the media, mainstream media. I'm afraid an awful lot of them aren't serving the people very well. People are being deceived, and people have to realise that. I mean, they're straight off the SWOT of relief. The carbon is not an issue. Carbon is great for plants. If we get any control over what's happening in this country, we'll be abolishing carbon taxes, all carbon taxes, right?
Right, but the money from the carbon taxes has been put to pretty good use, in terms of retrofitting and all of that sort of thing.
There are huge environmental issues.
Yeah,
and I'm not into this sort of lifestyle where we're all burning up fossil fuels and flying around here, there, and everywhere. My approach has always been to try and tread as lightly on planet Earth as I can,
Right, so you are an environmentalist,
totally,
but there's aspects of...
in Botany. I was working as an education officer for Crown. That's my life, 100%, yeah.
Can I ask you...
And I hate to see people being misled, Fran,
Can I ask you, before I let you go, what do you make of what appears to be Trump's remarkable victory in the United States? What does that say to you? Because some of the pundits, and I've said this twice already, some of the pundits are trying to put a spin on this, that the people who voted for him were ill-informed, they were a bit stupid, they were rednecks, they were... So I'm just wondering, what do you think of that picture?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's far better than the option of the Democratic Party candidate. I mean, what you have one candidate there who was actively engaged in supplying weapons for a genocide in Palestine. And I'm afraid that both candidates...
Will Trump be any different to that in terms of supporting Israel?
They seem to be both being in tow to the Zionist lobby, who are the biggest financiers. So, I mean, they're both seem to be trying to outvie each other to see who kissed the Zionist ass and the Temple Wall. I mean, and that is having a huge effect. And they're a very, very powerful group, a lobby. And they're lobbying the same lobby, the ADL, and that they're lobbying for the speech legislation They don't want open discussion about
All
things.
right.
So.
I must leave it there, but we're doing debates over the coming weeks, and we hope you'll take part in those. Peter, are you knocking on doors, literally? Are you?
Yeah, well, I mostly meet people in the street rather than knock on doors, But I've been at this now I never stopped the last 4 or 5 years. We went all over the country. I did 26 counties for the referendum back in March. I visited 27 counties, 100 towns in 2 weeks. Visited thousands of people on the streets.
All right.
And the whole thing changed. So.
A lot of travel, a lot of shoe leather. Good to see you, Peter. Thanks for coming into us today. News and information.